Okay, I don't know about the spice. All right. So in regards to the synthesis essay, we said that determining, I gotta say it all over again because now I have to record it. Okay, so we know in regards to this, we had to determine on page 1 what we were trying to argue. And it says in paragraph 2, develop an argument for your own position on whether your school district should establish, maintain, revise, or eliminate year-round schooling in your district. We determined that in our school district, which is Taylor County Board of Education, that we do not have, is that distracting? We do not have year-round schooling. So for us, we had to eliminate certain words. So maintain, revise, or eliminates year-round schooling, we took those out. So for us trying to determine what our thesis is going to be, we know it's going to be whether your school district should establish year-round schooling in your district. Well, also realize it's asking us to be specific. It's asking us to respond about your school district. So we have to bring in our school district, Taylor County Board of Education. We know that there are a list of sources. In this case, we have sources A through F. And what we did yesterday is we went through these, and you guys out there, you have a copy of this. Just pull it up on Teams. Underneath it this week, you'll see it says synthesis essay, year-round schooling. All right. So we looked at source A. We decided the majority of this source says what? Is this for or against year-round schooling? Against. The bottom part, it has one statement, and it says that there could be a benefit. Advanced students could have a benefit. So there is one little part of that could be for. So you could say either on this one. We read source B, and of course, while we're reading the sources, we're looking at the stuff in the little square here. Sorry, people that are reading this or looking at this virtually. And we know that it tells us certain information. Also in italics, it tells us certain information. It says the following is excerpted from a professional development website for educators. So we can kind of assume that you can assume that all of these are valid resources. There's no need for you when you're arguing this position to negate that this is a valid source or not. It's what you're given to argue with, okay? Whether it comes from a blog, whether it comes from whatever. But knowing this comes from educators probably gives it a little bit more punch. Do you think so? All right, so looking at this, we said that this could go both ways. Because first of all, on the bottom, there is a bulleted list of claims down there. First 3 are going to be for, second 3 are going to be against. There also, in paragraph 2, is this variation of the claim stating that they could stretch out the 180 days over the entire year and take a short break. So that's something to you as the writer as well when you're developing your argument that you could say, if you're feeling they should establish it, doesn't mean necessarily 365 days a year, but you could say 180 days stretched out. All right, we looked at source C, which is the cartoon, and it made us go, ho, ho, ho. And whenever we take a look at this, we can assume that they are in Hades. And we realize that because there's some devilish looking creatures here. And we said that this pretty much is saying that it is against year-round schooling. All right, looking at source D, taking a look at this, whenever we read through it, source D, I believe we said in there it was against year-round schooling. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right, and then you guys were to have looked over E and F. So taking a look at E, this is tough. Underneath of this, we have this Operation Additional Facilities. Whenever we take a look at this, it says traditional enrollment of 581 students. Okay, taking a look at that, does that look like that's an increase or less for additional facilities? Because year-round says 0. Traditional enrollment says there's going to be an additional. If we increase the amount of students from 500 to 581, do you see that?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's actually an increase for traditional schooling. Whenever we look down here at operational supplies, this is quite interesting because it stays the same. Whether in school or not, it's still going to take the same amount of stuff to make the school year happen. Okay, there are some differences down here in the total cost position cost item. So you'd have to look up through and see the difference between traditional enrollment of 635 students and year-round of 635. We do see there's a small difference there. So if you're a numbers person and you're trying to battle this one way or another, you could use logos to go in and pull some data from this to try to argue one way or another with your claim. All right, let's look at source F. This is a blog. Once again, because it's a blog, we don't have to deface it and say that it's not, doesn't have as much credibility. We can still argue it because it's what was given to us by College Board. So taking a look at this, is this blog for or against year-round schooling? For, yeah. She clearly states that it's for. So moving forward, here's where things get a little bit crazy, and this is why I wanted to record for those people not here. We have to start deciding which way we're going to argue this. So the first thing I'm going to ask you is, which way are you going to argue it? So think for a second and decide, based on what you have. And remember, I gave you forewarning whenever we had our remote day, and I said a lot of students think that they need to try to argue the path less taken. That's not going to gain you any kind of credibility or any kind of additional points with your reader, your AP reader, whenever they're looking at your essays. You need to try to choose the path that gives you the most argument that you can possibly build. So take a second to decide which way you think you want to go.